almost drowned twice. I had 2 strokes. I've had 2 heart attacks. And in 2019, I was paralyzed from the neck down.
You're still here. Look at you. You're like a superhero.
I'm not special. I'm just concentrated enough and curious enough to find out, why did that happen to me? I had witnessed something that most people could have never understood. And I looked crazy, but I knew inside I was not crazy.
The grief of, what are you saying?
The grief is the grief of the world. We're feeling grief of the world, not just, you had your grief and it was horrifying. I've had mine through seeing my father dying. I mean, we're all traumatized in ways that people don't even understand. But to grieve is the most powerful thing we can do, is letting go and really allowing truth to come through. And I'm a psychiatric social worker before I was a teacher. And I worked with people who were dying. And since I have been into this, I work with people as they cross over.
And after your experience.
Yeah, oh yes. I've crossed over more people, because I used to be in one of the hospitals in the area that would call me the angel of death, because I'd come in and they would call me, not hospice, because I worked for hospice, or I was studying to. But I saw that was so restrained. There's a lot of laws, rules and regulations in that. But you can feel this energy that I'm saying to you, because you should be able to feel it. And that's what's happening here. It's not about my words, David. It's about my truth, my courage. And it's about the frequency of what I'm saying. It's a higher consciousness. And we're being real. That's what I'm hearing from the emails is, you're real. Well, I'm as real can be. And the thing is, we all got to start getting real. If you feel bad, feel bad. I'm giving everybody permission to be who they need to be. And they don't even know who they need to be, because they have only been programmed who they think they are through your schools, your towns, your parents. It's an opportunity for all of us to wake up to find out who we really are. And if you want to experience something, because this grief that I feel all over the world for the last 3 or 4 years, I feel the grief walking into a store, because it changed everything. We are in grief, especially not just in America, because I've been in Vietnam with these podcasts. I've been in all over the world, basically. And it's the same grief, because we've lost something, and people can't distinguish what they have really lost. And it is a death, because it's a whole process of what you were one time into a culture. I even said that when I was in Vietnam. I said, we've got to get over our fleshes and about what we think we are, the culture that we are, because we came here, and this is truth for me, not anybody else, but for me. We're souls having a human experience, but we're taking in the human experiences and lowering it consciously to stay flat here. And what is coming is these things that I've been working with. I'm seeing a lot of people going into a different state of frequency. And if anybody, I was a scientist, I taught physics. So I know the physics of light, heat, movement, everything solidifies. When you understand the whole process, you see it on a whole different point of view, because we still lower everything to the lower levels. We have got to raise this planet in this dimension up, because this is how we've been controlled to push down. And this is why people are depressed. This is why people are trying to commit suicide. I mean, you can't imagine how many 5,000 emails I have seen and all the things, and I've read every one of them. And what I'm hearing from them is, raise me into my frequency. Well, the thing is, it's not that difficult. It's not, but it's all in your mind. If you really want to change your frequency, you got to change your mind.
So the shift in your mindset is how you, more or less, I'm sure it's maybe a little bit of a deeper process, is how you shift and up and down and elevate or descend amongst these frequencies. And I understand frequencies is a very key term that, I hear and what I listen to and what I think about. So your take on this idea with frequencies is was it initially based scientifically, or is this part of your near-death experience and realization?
It's part of my experience in the near-death experience, but what it is, it's so simple. Because I had an opportunity to work with Jesus Christ for 18 months after I had my heart attack. Now, a lot of people get turned out by Jesus, but Jesus is a name. Jesus is light. And that's what I met. When I crossed over, there was not a God of a man or a woman there. There was a being there. There was an intelligence there, but there was light in there. And I know what light is. It's a frequency. Mm-hmm. And when you understand that we are just light, it's right there in your Bible, because that's how this entity I call Jesus, because I recognized it that way, because I wouldn't have known it any other way.
So regardless what you call the light, you interchange that word, Jesus, whatever you believe in. It doesn't have to tie to Jesus specifically. It's just
no. But on a couple of podcasts, a lot of people say, "Well, I'm not going to listen to it because of Jesus." And I thought, see, that's a lower consciousness right there. They're taking the word or the name and they're lowering it down to a lower consciousness so they can't even hear my truth. See, that's how we've been trained in this world, on a consciousness of flat words. Words are vibration, but we've been trained only to know the word. When Jesus or God said in the Bible, word made light, what do you think that is? To me, when I got to be with Jesus for 18 months, I remember thinking, this is so simple. Why are we not doing this? Because he looked right at me and said, everything I can do, you can do. And what have we been trained to do? That's blasphemy.
What do you mean he looked at you? Because you mentioned before it wasn't exactly a man or a woman.
Well, at the beginning, he was an image, because I asked him every question. If you get somebody like that, I thought, I'm not going to miss it. But you got to understand, I saw Socrates. I saw characters that I had met historically, because I taught history as well. So I had these things coming in and I'm thinking, okay, is this real? No, a lot of times the imagery will come in because you wouldn't recognize it if you didn't see it that way. But when the image no longer does exist, you see the light, you see the truth, but you've got to first, because it's just like Jesus said to me. He said, if I walked in the room and I looked like somebody you wouldn't have recognized, would you know me?
So is that the mix between, okay, what may or may not be real on the other side, for quote unquote, / your mind also not playing tricks on you, but allowing you to adjust and recognize? Is that what you're saying?
Well, you've been programmed by imagery. This is what says false images. It's right there. I remember I went to a Quaker church. It did not have one image of God or a picture or anything. And I asked them, now there's one. I asked, and they said, we don't put images. Well, isn't it the best thing if you did not know who he was, but you knew it was supernatural and you would have an image, then spirit could be right there next to you and you would recognize it, but you would be not needing of an image. We've been programmed to imagery, and that's what idolization is.
It makes sense. I feel like the imagery also is part of the reason why there's biases, as opposed, like you said. I think when I share these stories, when I see the comment section, I mentioned this a million times, bear with me. But as soon as, people that perhaps don't have a specific faith, when they hear God, when they hear Jesus, like, oh, no. As opposed to just listening to an understanding, in my sense, that, okay, I think these stories can be interchangeable with what you believe, because whether it's a source or a light, you don't have to label it God or Jesus just because you identify with that. Doesn't necessarily change the overall meaning, if that makes sense.
And labels are exactly the truth. If we didn't label, if we all walked down in here in our soulness and nobody knew anything, how would we learn? Mm-hmm. We would learn very clearly about listening, being conscious, because we wouldn't have names either. There would be nothing on this plane that would give you any indication of who you are.
Well, Virginia, let me ask you, if you don't mind, because this is all interesting information of what you experienced. Do you mind explaining the near-death experience? You mentioned you had a heart attack, but what was that process? What did you see? What did you feel? What did you take with it?
Well, the first thing is, like I said, that I was sitting in my house a week before, and this man came on the TV, and this is what, I was there by myself, and he said, don't get a heart transplant. Now, this guy looked awful. He looked 90 years old. He had oxygen. but he had just had a open heart transplant. Okay. So this is what I'm thinking, I like to listen to medicine stuff and all of that. And I'm kind of like this and I'm listening. And the next thing I know, a couple of minutes later, it's almost like he leans into the television toward me. And I'm thinking, because I could feel the energy. Okay. And he says, "Don't get a heart transplant." I thought, whoa.
Oh, that's a little creepy.
Yeah. Oh, it very creepy, but I've had creepy things. There's been a lot of things in my life. So, you kind of go back and he kept saying it over and over. And I finally, it freaked me out. I just raised my hand and said, I am 46 years old. I walk 3 miles. Well, I walk 4 miles a day. I go up and down steps because I'm a teacher. I'm very athletic. I'm a swimmer, blah, 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 blah. The next week I'm looking at one. And it was like, I couldn't even wrap my mind around what was going on. But I knew one thing. I wasn't going to get a heart transplant. And everybody got really upset because when a person of 46 walks in with a completely massive heart attack to the point that it's caused her heart to die, basically. That's what they were saying to me, okay? And if I didn't get a heart transplant, I only had 6 months to live. And I still refused it. Now, I can go through those details and tell you how I was out in the end, but I've been in and out so many times because that would have been my seventh near-death experience. Well,
it's a different podcast.
I don't know, because I think we are miscarriaged out of here and back and forth. That's a whole different process.
Wait, I'm sorry, just to clarify, this is your seventh
near-death experience.
So did the story you're sharing me right now, the most recent story, when did the near-death experience happen amongst when you passed out? What happened exactly?
That was in 1998, but I was my mother's seventh miscarriage in 1951, and I survived it.
You were a miscarriage, but you survived it? How does that happen?
Well, they don't know. They have no idea that I even survived it because I was only 1 pound and 7 ounces in 1951 with no technology. And I survived.
So they thought you were a miscarriage as opposed to being a miscarriage.
Oh, yeah. No, that's what they called it. I was a miscarriage.
Huh.
I was at the 7th month. And obviously in the 7th month, that's where most of the things happen where a baby can develop. But that's deeper than people even understand, because I had that near-death experience in 1998 made me come back to look at that experience, plus the two that I had drowned. I was drowned twice, 11 and 16. And I was a lifeguard. And then I had 2 strokes. I've had 2 heart attacks. And in 2019, I was paralyzed from the neck down.
What? How are you? I mean, you're still here. Look at you. You're like a superhero.
I understand how to go in electrically and change. That's why I said I'm not special. I'm just concentrated enough and curious enough to find out, why did that happen to me? And when you're inside of your body, which is really inside of yourself, which is in your soul, your beingness, because everything out here is illusional. Everything that we have developed is within here.
So out of all these experiences, let's reel it back a little bit. Which experience was the most profound near-death experience that where were you? Did you go somewhere or did you come back with it? Walk me through the actual near-death experience.
In 1998, I went out. But I was in and out when I was having my heart attack at my local ER. I was thinking I was having acid reflux, because I'd had it just 3 weeks before. And I think this is why I got the indicator when I got the week before that you don't get a heart transplant. I think I was having a heart attack back there, but it relieved it enough. They called it acid reflux. And I think it was acid reflux, but I think it was also a heart. So we kind of cleared it up. So then, I just thought it was acid reflux what I was having. So I went to the ER and going clenching, I saying, but before all of that, I was at my classroom. That was the first day of summer break. And I was with my son, my younger son, and 2 of my students. And I had severe heart. It hurt so bad. And I kept thinking, there's something wrong. And I thought, well, I'm indigestion because you're 46. You don't think it's going to be anything like that. And I'd already gone to the doctor and had a complete physical from my acid reflux. And he looked at me and said, you'll live to be 100. And then within 3 weeks later, I'm having a massive heart attack and they think I'm going to die. So all of these things were, steps to get you where you are. But I think the most profound thing is when I was having the heart attack at my house is my cats. When I went upstairs and I laid down and my cats were looking at me and they were looking really strange, and I kept thinking, and I'm an animal communicator. I've always been an animal communicator. So I was an only child. So you learn about, your animals. And these cats were just acting so weird. They're like on top of me. And I kept thinking, what is this? But a small voice said to me, go into the bathroom and look at yourself in the mirror. And I went, and I'm still in pain, real bad. So I went in there and I was already ashen. I was already in the process of dying. And I'd heard my husband at the time, he was downstairs talking to the doctor that I had acid reflux and can we bring in more medication or what? And I came running down holding my chest. I said, no, I need to go to the emergency room now. And he said, no, I said, I need to go. And when I went in thinking it's still acid reflux, but it said, go to the emergency room. So I called, I listened. No, I was having a massive heart attack. And they were concerned but during this process, when they told me I was having a heart attack, I remember I left my body. And I remember it very well because I remember I was on the table in the ER, but I turned around and I saw myself in the corner of the room of the ER. And I kept saying, because you're trying to distinguish a logic that is no longer a logic. It's supernatural because that's how you would be able to do it. You could not be able to see yourself and see you at the same time, because that's when your spirit is basically, it's the one that's overviewing everything and you have to kind of understand how it works. And if you are very logical, it throws you into a whole different understanding about the world. And if anybody's had out-of-body experiences or even daydreaming, you're out of your body. Now, people said, that can't be, oh, yes, you are. I taught children. They would all, every spring when the kindergartners went out and you could hear them playing and it's been a long winter, my students that are sixth graders, they would leave, but their bodies were sitting right there in the seat. And I saw it. I'd see the energy leave to play out there with those. And that's what people don't know. We're multidimensional beings. But what we've been trained to do is be very narrow.
It's the only one dimension. I've heard that theory before. That's something I feel like is kind of reoccurring with a lot of these stories, which is cool to see. So at this point, when you're in the hospital, and you're seeing your body, what happens after that?
Well, I remember I was in and out, but I'm still trying to figure it out because at one time I was inside my body, but I was looking through my solar plexus, and I kept thinking inside, "Well, that's not possible. I have eyes, but I'm not seeing eyes down here." And I could see everything through my solar plexus. Well, that's telling you that you're in the spirit. You're not in the flesh again. Even though you think you're in the flesh, you are not. Because you still have a form that you can't let go because you can imagine it's still there. And then there was a being that came in behind me and it was like pushed me in real tight into my spine. Now, this is inside. And he kept saying, and it was a man's, voice. And how I'm going to hear a man's voice, I have worked with this so long, is because I was trained to hear a man's voice. If I didn't know anything, it would just be a different kind of voice. I would not be able to recognize male or female.
What do you mean trained?
Yeah. Beg your pardon?
What do you mean trained? What do you mean?
Well, you've been programmed. We know what a female is. We know that, a male voice is. And that was very clear. And I'm in the year of the 50s and the 60s. What men would be, very few women's voices were strong at that time. So where are you going to hear? More men voices. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. So you're saying, just to understand, so I'm not missing it here. You feel as so you were out of your body, but then you felt like you were inside, like
Yes.
literally inside your current body that was on the hospital bed. Am I understanding that?
Yes, because it's supernatural. You're multidimensional. You can be over here, over there, here, or there. People take it so they think they're only here. You're not just here. Anything that you've got your mind, if you're doing computer and you're just really working, you're connected to that computer, that energy, that concept. So your world is only there. Even though you can look outside of that little dimension and, there's walls of this room, but are you connected to those walls? No.
So it's kind of like everything everywhere all at once. So
Yeah.
so what's going on? So bring me back to that story of what's going on with you. Where are you right now?
Well, that's where I was. Is like, how does this, you're trying to get everything logical. A lot of NDEs that I work with, and they'll call me. They said, I didn't understand. I was here. I was there. Because you could just blink and think and you'd be somewhere else, because that's how I met the Council of 12, But did I really meet them? I've gone through my mind thinking, okay, did I get somebody tell me about that? And you'll hear a lot of NDEs say the same thing. Because did we think it? Did we see it? Is it real? Well, I know it's real. But you go through a different process of reality versus illusion.
Right. So it's kind of going back and forth between what you know here and then what may be over there. So you're kind of confused as to what's real.
Oh, you are.
So even yourself, because that's a big part of the conversation is, is this real? Is it not? Is our mind playing with us? Even though,
and
it's kind of so.
I hear this from everybody, oh, she just, and doctors said the same thing is that, when you close when the light goes down, then it's really, you just die. No, you do not. I can guarantee you, because I'm very much alive when I can do it. So I knew that's what I did is I wanted to figure it out. Is it real? Am I crazy? Could I talk to the grass? And I could talk when I first came out of that near-death experience in 1998. I could talk to the grass. I could talk to the earth. I could talk to God. I could talk. It was all real. It was all very awake, very alive.
I would like to tap into that because I've never heard that before. I want to see what was going on after the fact. What these talking to grass. I mean, the only talking to grass I'm aware of is when I'm smoking the grass, and that's a totally different experience. So beyond that, what do you mean by the Council of 12? What's going on there? Think you met up? Like what?
Yeah, I met with when I was going through the ambulance. And I know this is where people get upset because they think I'm fractioning everything. But when you're working in the spirit, and I'm in the spirit right now, just telling you, spirit is moving me to these different places. And that's the multidimensional part of it, because I know very much what I'm feeling and everything. And it's making me go back to really experience it. So I'm going back and experiences, but it doesn't make logical sense because on your podcast, they're going to say, she's a nut. This is what. And then you're going to say, no, this is how it sounds like. This is why NDEs are very confused. They try to walk into the world of man, but you're walking in a supernatural world at the same time. Now, you don't have to die in an NDE because I have a lot of clients that are in supernatural abilities.
Is this what you mean? Because it seems like when you're telling me this story, you're out of body, then you're in your body, and then you're over here. So is it kind of like, am I understanding that? Are you like glitching almost into different places constantly? Is that so? So you weren't just consistently in one place wherever that may be. You were kind of bouncing around.
Yes, it's exactly. Okay. Watch the movies. Watch the movies. They'll show you exactly what they're talking about. Because now when I came out of the hospital 3 days later, now let me explain that. There was a woman in the ICU that was with me. She was in her 70s. Because I never met her because she's in the process of dying. They pretty much think I'm going to die because even though I've had a stent and but my heart is not working functional. And that's why they wanted me to get a heart transplant. In which I'd already said I'm not. But the night that I first came in after my heart, after my surgery and everything, I'm laying down. And this is why it's so crazy. So I'm sitting there, I'm laying there. First of all, you start processing, what the hell happened to me? Because then you go back, what did that man say to me? And then you got this coming over here. Then this happened over here, but you don't have it all together. What saved my life is the woman that was next to me. Now, I'm having profound experiences. Like first, I had a light, like a little light came into the corner. Now, I shouldn't be able to see that, but I could see it. And it was a light in the corner. And the next thing I know, that light kept getting bigger. And I'm thinking, bad drugs. I'm now seeing light come through this corner, and it keeps getting bigger and bigger. And it lifts up light all through the room that I'm in, in my little cubby. And I thought, all right, bad drugs. Maybe I need to. Either I'm dying, because you go through this process. The next thing I look at, and it's Archangel Michael, who is bigger than the hospital.
And this is all in this is the same timeline.
You're
on the same timeline, okay?
Yeah, it's the same thing. And I looked up, and he came down and said to me, "It's time for you to wake up." And I thought, oh my God, I thought they're supposed to be nice.
I mean, when you're bigger than a hospital, it might come off.
Well, but that doesn't make sense. How can that be? How can he be bigger than the hospital on the 6th floor and I'm on the 3rd? That's what I'm telling you. When you're in supernatural natural nature, it doesn't make sense. That's why you can be a giant, and you can be, because I've done it. So I'm sitting there, and I remember, I wasn't sitting there. I was going, oh my God, I'm either probably going to die. And the next thing I know, there was angels, globes of angels started walking around my bed. And that's not possible, because I had a curtain here, a wall here, a wall over there, and they could go through the wall, come back around me through that curtain, and I could see everything they were doing, but I could hear the woman next to me breathing. Now, during this is going on, someone walked into that room with her. Now, I'm a teacher on Learning Channel and National Geographic. But the man that's talking to her sounds just like on the National Geographic narrator. And I'm hearing that, but I'm watching this over here, and I'm thinking, okay, I'm thinking that's crazy. That doesn't match. I mean, and he was as plain as day. So when it was over, all of that was going on, the nurse came in, and that lady died. And when she came in, I said, did that lady die? She said, like that. And I felt her when she left and all of that. But I saw what's going on too. I saw all of that going on. So this is like two worlds are going on. And I'm going, that doesn't make sense. So when I asked the nurse, I said, who was that in there in the room with her? And she said, oh, her son. I said, he sounded just like the National Geographic narrator. And she said, it was him.
It was actually him.
And I went, so I knew then that really happened, and this really happens. And when I learned many years later through my deep meditations of 16 and 17, 18 hours, and I did that, but it's not like the meditation that everybody's going, no, it's deeper, going down and reviewing everything within. Why did this happen? What was this? It's connecting dots and, crossing T's and looking at things from a whole different dimension. And it doesn't make the same sense on the world of man versus in the world of God.
So when you were experiencing all this and it was a lot of confusion, was there a point where you came to understand what everything was? Was it at some point during this experience? Was it after? Did you come back with information that you feel you didn't know prior about what this is all about?
I was still confused. It took like I said, it was a summer break, and I had to go back to school. I only had 3 months to really process. And I didn't talk to anybody for 3 months. My family tried to talk to me, and I just cried. Because I knew, and I knew I had witnessed something that most people could have never understood. And I looked crazy, but I knew inside I was not crazy. Mm-hmm. And because of the person that I am and how I was raised, I'm strong. I mean, I've gone through a lot of trauma. And that probably was the best thing that ever happened to me, because I was already traumatized. So, you weren't so thrown out. And I don't regret anything, David, what happened to me. From the very beginning of the minute I took breath on this plane to this where I'm at right now, because I had to be prepared to be able to come here now and tell you what this truth is. Because this is what the whole thing is. People want to know the truth, but they needed a strong voice to tell it. And I'm very courageous to stand up and tell the truth. And, I think because my family did think I was crazy. They wanted me to be committed. They thought I'm talking to the grass. I had a farm.
Yeah, I want to ask you about that because obviously, you know how it sounds when someone says I'm talking to the grass.
All my friends, they said, and this is what my town would say. She was a great teacher, a wonderful person. She was a community person, but she had that heart attack and she, not enough oxygen in the brain.
So people thought you were crazy.
Yes, they did.
So first of all, I want to tap into that. Cause again, if someone told me they were talking the grass, I'd be like, again, let me have what you're having. But what does that mean? What do you mean talking the grass?
I had a lot of time to really process that. And when it really happened to me, because I knew it. It wasn't like I heard it. I knew it. And I quit my job at the age of 50 in 2000. And I sat in my house for hours and hours. And one day I was sitting down and I knew that they were real. Because when I was a little girl, my dolls talked, my dogs talked, because I told you I was an animal communicator. So then when somebody understands that, there's other languages and other things that are there. My mother was psychic. So we had experiences in this house. Especially when
dolls or dogs?
No, dolls. Dolls.
Go on with that.
When I was a little girl.
You were younger, you spoke to dolls. What does that mean? How does that?
They would move. I knew they were moving. Oh, I saw things that came out of my closet. I saw demons when I was a little girl. So when I went, this was nothing in comparison. And I'll tell you, your psychics and your mediums, they're going to love it because they have done the same thing and everybody thought they were crazy.
Yeah, so when you told people you spoke to dolls, what did they do?
I didn't tell them when I was young because I knew they knew. But also, you got to understand, my dad was in the process of dying since the age of 11 to 16. So I'm going through trauma. And then they're sending me to the movies every weekend because he also worked on he came in on only the weekends. So I was being programmed by movies. I've been watching, Disney. I had to sit down and learn that those are all patterns. So are they real patterns of mine? Are they movies? Or somebody told me? Because we have so much in our mentalness.
Yeah.
That we don't even know what's real and what's not real.
Yeah, especially the dolls things. It's like a movie Chucky. I don't know if you've ever seen that. It's a horrifying movie. It's talking doll.
Now, why do you think the movie was even? Somebody had the same experience that I had. Go back to your movies. Stephen King. He's had those experiences. So why would you?
What experiences Stephen King had?
He had experiences of what he wrote about. There was a conversation with Johnny Carson about Stephen's mother. And she said when he was a little boy, he would cause all kinds of havoc because he loved to terrorize people. And he would do things to terrify. And they said every time we walked in the door, if we went somewhere and he was there alone, we knew he's going to do something to us. So she said, it doesn't shock me the kind of books he wrote because he thought like that all the time. What do you think a child would learn that?
The movies and all that stuff.
Yeah. Well, no matter. His mind was already tainted by horror.
So is that what you think would happen? Because when you're talking to dolls, that's just a figment of your imagination.
Well, I knew that things moved. I knew my dogs could talk. So anybody telling me in the 50s, that's not how it is. My mother would even look at me because when I saw my father, when he crossed over, my father walked through this hallway and I called my mother and I was terrified. She said, don't you tell anybody that you saw your father. They'll take you out in a straitjacket. Now, let me explain. They did take my father out with a straitjacket because he had a brain tumor and he almost killed us. So I had an understanding of the straitjacket activity. And she said, she scared me to death because she said, if anybody knows that you have these abilities, they'll crucify you. Now, that's what I learned about. So I closed it. I closed it down because that's an oscillation. The third eye is an oscillation, and you had to feed it to make it produce. Now, if you closed it off, this is why I got cancer from this point to this point in my third, because I had stopped it moving, and it created cancer to wake me up because it was 300 and something, I think 375 stitches went straight through my forehead. These are all experiences. If people would just get still, David, just like you've had all these experiences, you're just not aware you're having these experiences because you're not going back to track down in the past to find out, because we go in the past in trauma usually, and nobody wants to do trauma. So what you do is, but when you're going through on a soulful level, you see truths that you never even knew that was there.
So what truth did you find? What is the all-encompassing purpose of your experience? Is there a message? Are you confirming what's on the other side? Do you confirm what happens when we die? Do you confirm the purpose of anything? What is your overarching message?
We don't die.
Your death experience?
We don't die. We don't have to have bodies because, I've had one email that was sent to me, and it was a very religious woman, and she said, I'm going to be cremated, and I've already made up my funeral because I'm not afraid. I want to have an open mic. I want people to have fun. Because finally I got out. I've been waiting to get out for quite a while, so I have a whole different take on it. But I want you to understand, here on this plane, what you call Earth, it's a death cult. You look at it. All they want you to do is think about death, be about death, moralize death, 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 death. They're not talking about living. They're talking about dying. So when you do this, I want people to know you don't die. You need to to feel what is really in you. Whatever your dreams are, don't let anyone hold you back, even yourself, because you're holding back your soul. And your soul came here to create with you. That's why it's sitting in your flesh. But the flesh has overridden the soul because of all the distractions here. That's why we got.
So if we were a soul and we're this higher being, what is the purpose of being human? Why are we even here?
To create. On a higher level.
We can't create as a soul. Isn't a soul like a higher, so much better?
When two or more gather and we're all in the frequency of that, yes, we can. And we can do it right here on earth. That's what I want to do. Because if you go back to the Bible, and the Bible's real, there's a Bible within the Bible. They've got a shadow Bible. Then there's a Bible that is so simple and so easy. And it says, this is heaven or earth. So if you live in the world of the earth or world of man, you're not seeing the same scope that others see on a higher level of consciousness. So if we raise everybody up to that consciousness, you'll flip this earth and we create on a higher level. We don't even know what we can do because we've been programmed not to think we can. Look what they say to us, that we're small-minded. No, we're not. We're expansive minds. And that's why my website is strictly there. If they would just go look at the 2 videos, breathwork and the grounding. They can learn it just like I did. And they don't need a teacher. They don't need anybody. But it's a constant practice until you can reach that layer within. And there is. It's a depth. And that's when you touch it. And then you're in.
In what?
You're into the state of consciousness to create, not lay into the lower consciousness of all.
So what's your opinion? So when you reference the Bible and what the Bible is telling us, what does that mean for all these other beliefs and all these other religions and all these other, books that tell us what's what?
Well, when I was with the light of Jesus, or whatever you want to call it, that intelligence said, everything in the world of man is tainted. Go find the taint. And go back to your Bible. It talks about the taint. So everything at every church, everybody that opens their mouth, there is going to be truth. But your job is that my truth? Is that tainted truth? Or is it the truth? And the only way you can learn this is through feeling the truth. You can talk it, and I've been I've been mesmerized by somebody, and then you find out they're not who they are. You've got to learn how to feel the soul of each other, because you'll know immediately. You'll know immediately, because it's not talking from this mouth. It's talking about this soul.
Yeah, I just wonder, because the truth, I feel like, when someone says the truth, usually the truth is just one angle. But I feel like some people we have all these different beliefs, and one person may believe A, one person may believe B, with the exact same conviction, the same feeling that it's coming from the heart, the same feeling that they feel they just know, but they believe two opposite things. So that's where this conversation gets interesting in regards to what does happen. And I hear a lot of similarities with the near-death experience, but when it comes to just belief systems in general about death and this and that, there's such opposite sides with just equal conviction that this is so. So it just makes you say, okay, well, someone's wrong, but they both believe with the same power. So it's like,
nobody's wrong. If that's your perspective, then that's who you are. That's going to be a part of you. We're not trying to just sell anybody. I mean, I know my truth.
Yeah.
And I'm solid in that truth. So this is what I'm saying is, that's where people have to go in and find their truth and tell their truth. And if anything, be honest with themselves. Now, this is what I've learned from all over the world. Most people are not being honest with themselves within. They don't want to hurt anybody. But what if they knew they had a soul mission, was to tell them the truth, to make them wake up to the truth? Then maybe that would change everything, because you've got to be honest. If somebody is bothering you and it's bothering you, you owe it to yourself to find out why they're bothering you. And this is what I teach people. One finger pointing, three fingers pointing back. Find out first is that if a lot of people see everybody outside of themselves and they judge them. Okay. But what it is that one finger also is looking at the three so I go in. Is that about me? Is that something? Because I've done it. I've had to do it. I mean, there's a lot of people that piss me off a lot of times. And I would say, oh, they're just horrible people. And this is where I learned in soulfulness. My soul turned around and looked at me and said, but you wouldn't recognize them if you didn't have it already in you. And I thought, it means I'm going to have to deal with it. And I did. And they're right. How can you recognize anything if you didn't feel it already or know it already? See, those are.
I guess you wouldn't.
Yeah. This is how this light being, or this massive, supernatural being, this is how it trained us. Everybody in this plane, anywhere around you, is mirrors to each other. Now, we don't have to go out and slash them and kill them because we make them enemies and welcome them in. I want to know how come they're mirrors to me. Now, mirrors are not hard to recognize. When you like somebody, that mirror feels right good. You know how it feels. Make me feel good. What about those that really piss you off? You better look at it, because you wouldn't have recognized it if you hadn't seen it or felt it.
So you tell me, what do you want to tell people from your experience specifically? It may be a summarization of everything you said, but if there's anything you didn't say, tell me. But what is the biggest summary from your experience, from having this near death, from seeing what you saw, from experience what you experienced? What the heck are we doing? Because I know you said we live on after this, but what does that mean? Are we Are we just going our souls and we just hanging out?
No, it's not like, because when you're in spirit, you're not going to recognize that you're in spirit. If you're a star, do you think a star sits around and talks about being a star? I do, because I had that happen to me. But
you go back to that. You were a star?
When I was a young girl, a long time ago, I remember I was a star. And I remember thinking, I'm a star. And I remember when I said, I'm going to fall here and create. And that's what happened. That's what I'm.
Wait, okay. So this is before everything. So you're telling me when you were a kid, you felt as if you were a star, like a star, not like Betty White, like a star.
Yeah, well, I thought I was a horse. I could feel the horse part of me. This is what people have lost in their times, because in the 50s, 40s, and 60s, 50s, we didn't have televisions. We had to create. We had to, so what kind of world did we create? I remember all of us would sit in there and we'd watch the clouds, and we would watch clouds, and we'd all come together, and those clouds would go into something else. But we all would say, that's a lion. And then everybody agreed. We did it because I sat down with a group in Chicago and I said, I'm going to show you something. And we did clowns with a dog.
What do you mean you were a horse, though? What does that mean? Like you're playing around?
Well, when you're a kid at school, I used to be a white horse and everybody could feel that I was a white horse, you know? But I have been with clients sitting in here that tell me that they have totals. And I look and I have one sitting right next to me and she turned into a black panther right in front of me. Now, I know shape-shifting. I see shape-shifting. I see when people shape-shift their face. But this girl was as a black panther that I've ever seen. I even touched the hair on her. And she's Native American. She knew how to shapeshift. She knew how to use, totems. See, you need to go out. I went to the Indian reservation. I've been to places where people see things and I see things.
Wait, so let's go back. I'm confused. So who'd you pet? You pet another girl that turned into an animal? What does that mean?
She was a client sitting on my couch looking at.
Okay.
And we were talking and she turned around and the next thing I know, she was a black panther sitting, like a panther would be there. And I thought, the first it scared me. I thought, is she going to attack me?
Did she put her arm up and say Wakanda?
No, she didn't say anything. She just, I could only understand her through her eyes. And she looked right at me. And I just leaned out and I said it out loud. I said, I just want to touch your fur. I don't. And her eyes allowed it. And if you understand, and this is what I'm saying, if people understand energy, they'll know what I'm talking about. People that have never had this experience, they don't because they think that's crazy. But I lived like this as a little girl, as well as I'm living as a woman today. And I just touched it and you could feel the follicles of that hair because I have animals. And then she went, shh, she came back. I think they did the movies the way they do with the, the ones that would transform into something else?
I mean, CGI, but this is like...
That's not...
This is... you're saying in Hollywood in the movies, there are actual people shape-shifting?
Yeah, well, they're showing you shape-shifting. Wolverine. I mean...
Right, they're showing us, but you're telling me... Well, that's CGI.
Why would they show you that if somebody, and the writers are the ones you want to look at? It's never look at the actors. The actors are the puppets. Go look at the writers. Wonder why they would write that.
Well, I'm with you on that. I understand how Hollywood and, there's a lot of propaganda. There's maybe these little secret messages here and there. But you're telling me, what are you telling me about shape-shifting? Because once again, this relates to me like, if my friend told me this, it's an experience I've had before, not maybe on mushrooms, but I'm trying to understand the reality of what you're seeing and what you're experiencing. What is this called?
Well,
what is this called?
It's called shape-shifting, or Native Americans talk about skinwalker. So that's what this is. This is supernatural.
Excuse me.
Yeah, well, that's coughing up a lot of stuff because I'm sure that you're really feeling this because I can feel you.
What are you feeling me?
Yeah, you're coughing up the truth. This is things that you've probably never really experienced. But now, if you've had shrooms, I got shrooms when I was, I think I was 60 years old. I did marijuana when I was in college. And then I did, so I've done ayahuasca, but that wasn't ayahuasca. It was something else. But I've done a lot of things, but everything that I've done will never override what I've already experienced in another way. I didn't need anything.
So why do you think, if you're having these experiences, why are you having them and how do you know what's real and what is not, just that your mind playing a trick on you?
No, because I'm very much in my body. And I know, because the whole thing is you got to stay in your body. See, when you're going into shrooms and all the psychedelics, you're going out into the universe. You're not going to learn anything out there but just fly around. I was up there for a long time myself, and my soul was the one that pulled me down and said, you've got to come here. This is what your mission is, to come here and create here, not out there. And that's exactly.
So what does this all mean?
Well, I know what it means to me. What does it mean to you?
I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to grasp at hairs right now just to understand what that means because I have no idea. I honestly have no idea. I mean, this is something that I've never heard before in regards to like real experiences and saying that, this actually happened between, what what my mind, again, what I already said, what my mind is seeing and what is actually happening. Therefore, I mean, I think anything is possible. So what do I know? You know what I mean? I feel like I have a limited understanding of what's actually happening.
Start breathing and really, you've got a lot on your mind. You've got a lot of energy here, and I see it. But you haven't opened up all of this, because when this and this, when your head, heart, and soul meet, then you have a different energy and you have a different experience.
And how do you align that? How do you open?
Through breath through your nostrils, because it's right there. That's right there in the Bible. When God took his fingers up into Adam's nose and raised it up, and he blew his breath through his nostrils, what do you think that was? That's spirit. What do you think breath is? It's spirit. And when you go like this, you go up into the third eye. You're taking the spirit back into the third eye. Now, what you do is you learn how to bring this up, and you utilize that completely because you think you have lungs. Well, when you really learn supernaturally, your breath is spiritual. So it can go anywhere in your body. And then it wants to be grounded, because when you ground that energy from you, from the universe to you, to the earth opens up. It becomes very alive. But then you're the link between that consciousness and this consciousness. So you're the link between the two.
Say the breath, even without is an in-depth, perspective that you have. The breath is such a simple way to solve a lot of things.
Right.
You know what I mean? If you're feeling overwhelmed, just literally focusing on your breath. I feel like we just breathe. You know how we breathe involuntarily? It's habitual. We just breathe. But when you focus on your breath, it really slows things down. It's such a simple practice to
and that's what you need practicing, because this is why you'll get into that experience, because when you slow everything down, and when you're really slowing everything down, guess what? Quantum wise, it gets fast. So you run into a different space like this.
Virginia, this has been a lot of fun. This is such a different conversation that you're tapping into worlds that I've never even known people have said to experience. I feel like your story should be in the next Marvel movie. This is exciting.
I think, and I'm going to tell you, because I do have clients that are like me. Okay, there is people like me. And one of them is Jeremy, the producer that I do. And you probably would want to meet him, because he's had different experiences, but he's been with me for 15 years. And he knows this too. That's why we work together. But that's what I'm saying is this work is the most important work we can, is to teach people there are other opportunities to learn spirit and to really create spiritually on a higher plane. I mean, if we don't do this, where are we going to go in all of this? Because I'm not staying here much longer if it keeps on doing like this. And I can go in and out. And
I barely feel like staying in Los Angeles, let alone
I can't even believe you being in Los Angeles, because it's so dense. Because do you understand? Let me tell you something about Hollywood. In 1964, they had over 64,000 witches that were practicing there. Now, what do you think they're doing now?
Witches?
Yeah, witches. Absolutely. You've got black witches, you got dark witches, and you got light witches. You got people that can do this, but they can do the opposite of what we do. And
I think the witches today are probably doing yoga and have crystals in their hands if it's Los Angeles.
No. The one I met that came from there, that was the shaman. No, he was changing people energetically and taking their essence from them with their souls. I sat and watched it.
Wait. So what's your take on witches? What do you think? What's a witch?
Well, witches are anybody. This is the way I tell, when people say, well, how do I, there's good people, there's good bad people, there's everything. But it's your intent and your will. When you're working on the higher consciousness, that is the divine willness, okay? When a witch is working, it is their will. There's two different wills involved in that. So when you're creating your own will, then you are doing it on a lower level, I feel. That when you say in my divine plan or my divine energy, that's opening you up to a lot larger portal. And for more goodness to be, when I say goodness, all God is, G-O-D, goodness over doubt. That's all God is. Stop doubting it. It's real. It's supernatural. It's not a man that's walking down. The only reason why Jesus came in, is to let everybody know that humans, even though they are in the flesh, they're still in spirit.
Yeah, I'm with that. I don't know. Again, I think the thing I always say is, I guess I'll find out.
Start doing your breath work.
I'm gonna start breathing right after this.
Well, when you go to my website, go find those 2 videos and practice them, because I've given everybody. And if you do that, you don't have to pay any money. You don't have to ask somebody like me or Jeremy or anybody else. You can do it. I did it. I didn't have anybody. In 1998, there wasn't anybody I could ever talk to about my near-death experience. But they all knew that I was different. Now, even my colleagues in teaching, they knew it was different because I could read children differently. And I was an animal communicator. When you work with animals, you can't communicate it. You work on a different level. And that's why, I'm from Kentucky, so I work with horses here.
Wait, yeah, so when you say you're an animal communicator, I wish I tapped into this a little earlier before we get out of here. Are you literally just talking to animals like Dr.
I have a cat that I taught how to be a dog. I work with horses. If I'm working, one of my clients is in Arizona, and she calls me and her horse is having a problem. So she goes and gets the phone, and I listen.
What's the horse saying?
Because it's all about her. And horses and animals will always say it's the owners. And that is exactly right. That's why I have to explain to people, because I had to work with the people that are really deep into their animals or their horses majorly. And I tell them, I said, you're not listening to your horse. Horses have to have an understanding, and they will break their leg. They will hurt themselves to help, not to hurt them. It's traumatic for a horse trying to keep the rider or the owner safe, because they're not paying attention to the horse's gestures or what he moves. And I used to have horses, 20 of them at a time, line up, and I'd go tell them, you're not listening to your horse.
So how does this work in regards to, is this something you could do regularly? Like, what about the cat that's with you right now?
Is he bound? No.
Is there like something you could literally do right now in regards to talking to your cat?
Well, right now I'm grounded. You didn't see him try to grab my hand because he grounds me. Because if I'm in a real deep meditation, baby will come in and bite me to get me back in my body. Because first of all, he knows when I'm way out there, he's got to eat. So he wants to make sure somebody comes in here to eat him, eat with him, or, give him food. He knows this. He has energy. He's been with me for a long time.
So when you say communicator, it's not like, hey, cat, what's going on?
No. This is mental.
Okay.
My first time that I really had it is I had a cat named Ike, because I had Ike and Tina, 2 cat brothers.
Tina and Ike, wasn't that actually Tina and Ike?
Yeah, that's what. Well,
they would fight? That's not a surprise. Didn't Ike and Tina have a little rough go?
And I got them for my sons. But that's what I'm saying. I was one day, and after I had my near-death experience in 1998, I was at home, and Ike always sit like this. He was a big cat, just would go like this. And I was just playing around. I was at the sink, and I could look because I had the farm. And I looked at him, and I said it mentally. Can you hear me? That's all I said. And I said, if you can hear me, turn your head around to me. And he did. So that's just a coincidence. So then I did it again. And he did it again. And I thought, then finally I said, and I was saying the same thing. He turned around and looked at me, and he said it to, I can see you. And I can talk to you, but you've never wanted to talk to me. And I went like that. I thought, oh my God. But now my other dog, when I was a little girl, could talk, Tammy. But I never had any others that had talked to me until then.
I'd say you're out here, talking to grass, horses, and cats. I could barely communicate with my my last girlfriend, so I need to take a lesson from you. So
come on, if you would, I'll tell you right now, to really find the girlfriend, open up your heart. They'll find you.
I need to open in the breathing, so I got to breathe.
You got to breathe, but your heart is real smashed down. Yeah, that's from your trauma. That's what you hold. You're very vulnerable in there, David. And what you're doing is you're holding it real tight in there. And the thing you want the most is what you want to open it up and experience it, but you're too afraid to. Because you're too.
How do I unsmash my heart then?
Then you go down through your breath and you say, You go down into your heart, but it's not to the organ. You're going to the space and you're saying, why will I not open up? Now you've got to understand, you've lost your father. That's a little boy in there that said, it hurts to leave when people leave you. So why wouldn't you? Well, this is what I'm feeling, because this is what I said about my father as well. It hurts. So isn't it more easier to protect that so you don't have to ever experience it again? But the thing that you want to experience, you're holding back. You're guarding it. So you're never going to receive it.
After all this, I thought I was a hopeless romantic. Now my heart's just smushed.
No, you know how to be romantic, but you don't know how to be intimate. Intimacy of men, and I work with men who do not know how to be, and women, this is all women want. They want that kindness. They want the tears out of a man that they know is real in there. You know, it's nice to have a really strong man, but it's also a man that can fall down into that state and really experience what's going on too. If we don't get this way, we're not going to get in, we're going to be stuck. And I had to learn it. I had to learn it. I had to learn how to cry. I had to learn how to belly laugh, because the little girl in me, when my dad died when I was 16, I remembered it. It said, I'm going to not ever have another man in my life because it hurts too bad.
I mean, we're all learning. I think that's the beauty of it. And, it's interesting how those past traumas and that stuff we go through way back when affects everything we're doing today. I think that's part of massaging it out. Virginia, I do want to thank you for sharing this. That was a new perspective and lens for me for hearing stuff that I've never heard before. So I appreciate you opening up and sharing your story and all that. I got some thinking to do, and I appreciate you being on here. So why don't you, before we get out of here, if there's anything you want to drop as a last line or let people know how to find you, please let the world know.
Okay, well, I sent you my website. Would you please put that on there for me?
Of course, yeah. In the link, as usual, the bio, I'll put the information to if you want to find Virginia over here, and we can go from there. How's that sound?
That's perfect.
All right, I appreciate you, Virginia. And until next time, y'all check out the rest of the Dead Talks episodes to come. And thank you for tuning in to this very fun episode with David and Virginia. Thank you, Virginia.
Thank you, David.
Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Dead Talks. Please do not forget to hit the subscribe button and also the notification bell. That'll give you updates as to when we post a new video, more episodes, and more content in general. We are streaming on all the major podcast platforms, including Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Pandora, and all that. And also find us on Instagram at Dead Talks Podcast or www.deadtalks.net. Thank you so much.